Jake Morrison stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, watching as his world fell apart. The massive room stretched high above him, filled with creatures from 100 different worlds. Some looked like giant insects, others floated in tanks of green liquid, and a few seemed to be made of pure light. All of them were about to vote on whether humanity lived or died. The human ambassador adjusted his black suit and tried to keep his hands from shaking. Behind him, Captain Lisa Hayes stood tall in her blue military uniform. Her face showed no emotion, but Jake could see the anger in her dark eyes. They had come here asking for help, and instead they were being treated like criminals. High Counselor Vexstar spoke from the center of the room. His body looked like it was made of purple crystal, and his voice sounded like wind chimes when he talked. We are here to decide if the Council will help humanity fight the Zirathi invasion. Let the voting begin. Jake watched the giant screen above them as the votes came in. One by one, each alien race said no to helping Earth. The Altarians voted against them. These were the same aliens who had called humans their friends just last year. The Zenari also said no. Jake remembered how humanity had saved their entire planet from a deadly disease only 5 years ago. This is wrong, Jake whispered to Lisa. We helped all of them when they needed us. Lisa nodded but said nothing. Her job was to protect Jake, not to speak in the council. But he could see she wanted to say something very badly. The voting continued. The methane breathers said no. The Silicon Lord said no. Even the peaceful tree people, who claimed to love all life, voted against helping humanity. Each vote felt like a knife in Jake's chest. Why are they doing this? Asked Tony Rodriguez, Jake's young assistant. The 25-year-old had never seen politics like this before. Because they're scared, Jake answered quietly. Not of the Zirathi, of us, it was true. Jake had been Earth's ambassador for 10 years. He had watched how the other races looked at humans. At first they had been curious. Humans were new to space, having only left Earth 200 years ago. Most races took thousands of years to develop space travel. Humans had done it in just a few centuries, then the other races became worried. Humans built cities on worlds that other species thought were impossible to live on. They made friends with races that had been enemies for millions of years. They solved problems that the Council had given up on centuries ago. The worst part was that humans never seemed to know when to stop. Other races would settle 1 or 2 worlds and be happy. Humans kept exploring, kept building, kept pushing further into space. In just 200 years, they had colonies on over 50 worlds. The screen showed the final count. 347 races had voted. Only 12 had said yes to helping humanity. The rest had either voted no or chosen not to vote at all. High Counselor Vexstar's crystal body glowed brighter as he spoke. The motion to provide military aid to humanity against the Zirathi Empire is denied. This session is now closed. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. He looked around the great hall as the alien delegates began to leave. Many of them would not look at him. Others stared at him with what looked like fear or disgust. An Altarian delegate walked past them. Jake had met her before at many peaceful meetings. Ambassador Kella, he called out. Please, can we talk? The tall, blue-skinned alien stopped but did not turn around. There is nothing to discuss, human. Your people brought this war on themselves. How did we bring this on ourselves? Jake asked. The Zirathi attacked our colonies without warning. They enslaved our people. We never did anything to them. Kella finally turned to look at him. Her large, silver eyes showed no kindness. You expanded too fast. You took too much space. You made the Zirathi feel threatened. This is your problem to solve. But they're killing innocent people, Jake said. Children, families, entire cities. That is unfortunate, Kella replied. But the Council has decided. We will not risk a larger war because of human mistakes. She walked away, leaving Jake standing there with his mouth open. Behind him, more delegates filed out of the hall. He heard pieces of their conversations as they passed. The humans are too dangerous, said one voice that sounded like grinding stone. Better to let the Zirathi deal with them. I heard they have secret weapons, whispered another voice. Weapons that could destroy entire star systems. My people think they are. Not natural, said a third voice. No race develops technology that fast without help from dark forces. Jake turned to Lisa. Did you hear that? Lisa nodded, her face grim. They think we're demons or something. Just because we learn fast and work hard? Tony looked confused. But we've helped so many of them. We shared our medical technology, we helped end 3 wars. We even gave them our agricultural methods to feed their hungry people. And that's exactly why they're scared, Jake said. We did in 200 years what took them thousands. We made them look weak and slow. As the great hall emptied, Jake, Lisa, and Tony were left almost alone. Only a few council workers remained, cleaning up after the session. The massive room felt cold and empty now. Jake's communication device buzzed. It was a message from Earth. He read it and felt his heart sink even further. The Zirathi have attacked 3 more colonies, he told the others. Newburgh colony has gone silent. We think they killed everyone there. Lisa's hands formed fists. How many people lived on Newburgh? About 50,000, Jake replied. Mostly farmers and their families? The 3 humans stood in silence for a moment, thinking about all those dead people. 50,000 men, women, and children who had died while the council debated and voted. What do we do now? Tony asked Dot before Jake could answer. A new voice spoke behind them. You go home and prepare for war. They turned to see a figure in a dark robe approaching them. When the figure pulled back its hood, they saw it was Ambassador Ruth Price from the Independent Worlds. The Independent Worlds were a group of planets that had left the Council 50 years ago because they thought it was too slow and weak. Ruth, Jake said, I didn't know you were here. I came to watch the Council prove once again why my worlds were right to leave, Ruth replied. Her gray hair was pulled back and her green eyes looked tired. And to give you a message. What? Message? Ruth looked around to make sure no one was listening. There are other options, Jake. The Council isn't the only power in the galaxy. There are paths that don't require you to beg these cowards for help. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of paths? The kind that your leaders on Earth are already considering, Ruth said. The kind that will make the Council wish they had helped you when they had the chance. Before Jake could ask what she meant, Ruth pulled her hood back up and walked away. Her last words echoed in the empty hall. Tell your people the Independent Worlds remember our friends. And we remember our enemies. Jake, Lisa, and Tony stood alone in the great hall of the Galactic Council. Around them, the walls showed pictures of 1,000 different worlds and species, all supposedly united in peace and cooperation. But Jake now knew the truth. When humanity needed help the most, they had been abandoned. As they walked toward the exit, Jake made a decision. He would return to Earth and tell his leaders exactly what had happened here. He would tell them that humanity was alone in the galaxy, surrounded by aliens who feared them more than they cared about justice, and then, Jake thought grimly, humanity would have to decide what to do about that. The great doors of the Council hall closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Jake Morrison, Earth's ambassador to the galaxy, walked into the corridor knowing that when he returned home, everything would change. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. 3 months had passed since the Council turned their backs on humanity. Admiral Ben Carter sat in the deep underground bunkers of Luna Base, staring at reports that made his stomach turn. The Zirathi had not wasted any time after learning that Earth would fight alone, New Terra was gone. The crown jewel of human space, home to 12 million people, had fallen after a brutal 3-week siege. The lucky ones had died quickly when the Zirathi bombardment began. The unlucky ones were now slaves working in the alien mines until they dropped dead from exhaustion. Sir, we have another report from the Kepler system, said Commander Paul Wright, handing Ben a datapad. His young face looked older than his 30 years. The war was aging everyone quickly. Ben read the report and closed his eyes. How many survivors? None, sir. The Zirathi glassed the entire planet. Every city, every town, every farm. Nothing left but radioactive ash. That was 3 million more people dead. Ben added them to the running count in his head. In 3 months, humanity had lost over 20 million citizens. 20 million men, women, and children who had trusted their leaders to keep them safe. What about our fleets? Ben asked. Admiral Johnson's group is still fighting in the Vega sector, but they're outnumbered 10 to 1. Admiral Murphy's ships are falling back from the Centauri colonies. We've lost 60% of our active fleet. Ben stood up and walked to the large display screen that showed the war across human space. Red markers showed where the Zirathi were winning. There were a lot of red markers. Blue markers showed human positions. There were not many blue markers left. They're not just trying to defeat us, Ben said quietly. They're trying to wipe us out completely. Dr. Elena Santos entered the command room. She was a small woman with dark hair and tired eyes. As head of the Military Science Division, she had been working around the clock for months. Admiral, I need to speak with you, in private, Ben nodded to Paul. Give us the room. When they were alone, Elena activated a privacy field that would stop anyone from listening to their conversation. Ben, we need to make a decision. Today. What kind of decision? Elena pulled out a secure datapad and placed it on the table between them. The Prometheus protocol is ready for deployment. Ben felt his blood turn cold. The Prometheus protocol was humanity's darkest secret. It had been developed in hidden laboratories, using technology and methods that the Galactic Council had specifically forbidden. For good reason. Elena, you know what that means. Once we cross that line, there's no going back. The entire galaxy will see us as monsters. The galaxy already abandoned us to die, Elena replied. They chose their comfort over our survival. Now we have to choose between extinction and evolution. Ben picked up the datapad and read through the files. The Prometheus protocol was not just one project, but dozens of them. Genetic modifications that would make humans stronger, faster, and smarter. Weapons that used forbidden physics to tear holes in reality itself. Ships that could exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. The Council banned this research because they said it was too dangerous, Ben said. The Council banned this research because they were afraid of what humans might become, Elena corrected. They wanted to keep us weak and dependent on them. Well, now we know what their protection was worth. Ben continued reading. Some of the projects made him feel sick. They would change what it meant to be human. But as he read, he also began to understand just how powerful humanity could become. How many of our people know about this? The core research teams, maybe 200 scientists total. A few dozen military officers who helped with testing. That's it. And you're sure it will work? Elena nodded. We've been testing parts of it for years. The genetic modifications work perfectly. The new weapons can destroy ships 10 times larger than anything we've ever built. The dimensional technology will make our fleets nearly impossible to stop. Ben stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the lunar surface. In the distance, he could see the construction yards where humanity's last ships were being built, traditional ships that used approved technology and followed Galactic Council rules. The ships that were losing the war. How long would deployment take? The genetic modifications can begin immediately. We have treatment centers ready on 50 worlds. The new weapons can be installed on our existing ships within weeks. The dimensional technology will take longer, maybe 6 months for full deployment. Ben turned back to Elena. And the cost? What do you mean? I mean, what will we lose? What will we become? Elena was quiet for a moment. We'll become something the galaxy has never seen before. Something that can't be ignored or abandoned or destroyed. But we'll also become something that can never go back to what we were. Ben thought about the reports on his desk. 20 million dead, entire worlds turned to ash. Children sold into slavery. All because the Council was too scared of human potential to help them when they needed it most. There's something else, Elena said. We've been monitoring Council communications. They're not just ignoring our situation. Some of them are actively helping the Zirathi. What? Elena activated another display. The Altarians have been sharing our ship designs with the Zirathi. The Zenari have been providing them with detailed maps of our colonies. Even some of the smaller races are giving them intelligence about our military movements. Ben felt rage building in his chest. They're not just abandoning us. They're helping our enemies kill us. It gets worse. We intercepted a transmission from High Counselor Vexstar to the Zirathi Emperor. He promised that the Council would not interfere as long as the Zirathi left Council worlds alone. They've made a deal, human extinction in exchange for their safety. Ben's hands began to shake with anger. The beings he had once respected, the aliens he had tried so hard to work with, had sold humanity to their killers. They were not just cowards, they were murderers. Show me the authorization codes, Ben said. Elena handed him a different datapad. This one required his handprint, retinal scan, and voice authorization to activate. The Prometheus protocol had been designed to need approval from the highest levels of human government. In wartime, that meant Ben. Sir, once you activate this, there will be no going back. We will become something that the rest of the galaxy fears. We will be alone in ways that make our current situation look like a friendly disagreement. Ben thought about his daughter Sarah, who lived on one of the outer colonies. He thought about his grandchildren, who might not live to see their next birthday if the Zirathi reached their world. He thought about all the human children who would never be born if their species was wiped out. Elena, let me ask you something. If we don't do this, what happens? Humanity goes extinct within the next year, maybe 2 years if we fight very hard. And if we do this? Humanity survives. But we become something that will terrify the galaxy. Then placed his palm on the scanner. The device beeped as it read his handprint. The galaxy should have thought about that before they decided we didn't deserve to live. The retinal scanner activated, reading his eyes. Ben spoke clearly into the voice recorder. Admiral Benjamin Carter, authorizing deployment of the Prometheus Protocol. Full activation across all human space. May God forgive us for what we're about to become. The system accepted his authorization. Across human space, hidden facilities began to wake up. Secret laboratories opened their doors. Forbidden weapons came online. And in treatment centers on 50 worlds, humans began to line up for injections that would change them forever. Elena looked at the confirmation screen. It's done. The transformation has started. Ben nodded and sat back down at his desk. He opened a communication channel to all remaining human fleet commanders. This is Admiral Carter. New orders are being transmitted to all ships. We are no longer fighting a defensive war. As of now, we take the fight to the enemy. Outside the bunker, the first modified humans were already beginning to change. Their reflexes became faster, their minds became sharper, their bodies became stronger, and deep in their genetics, powers that the Council had spent millions of years trying to suppress began to wake up. The galaxy had abandoned humanity, thinking they were saving themselves from chaos. Instead, they had forced humanity to become exactly what they had always feared. The Council had made their choice 3 months ago. Now humanity had made theirs. Captain Ryan Brooks felt different the moment he woke up. His body felt lighter, stronger, and more alive than it had ever been. Colors seemed brighter, sounds were clearer. Even the air tasted better as he breathed it in. "How do you feel, Captain?" asked Dr. Elena Santos. Checking the readings on her medical scanner, Ryan sat up on the treatment table and flexed his hands. "I feel like I could punch through a steel wall. Is that normal?" Elena smiled. It was the first time Ryan had seen her smile in months. "That's exactly what we hoped for. The genetic modifications are working perfectly. Your strength has increased by about 400%. Your reflexes are now 10 times faster than they were before. And your brain can process information at speeds that would have been impossible for a normal human." Ryan stood up and looked at himself in the mirror. He looked the same as always, but something in his eyes was different. They seemed to glow with a soft blue light. "What about the others?" All the volunteers are responding well. We've modified over 50,000 people so far, with more every day. But you and your crew are special, Ryan. You're the first ones who will test the new ships. Ryan nodded. He had volunteered to be among the first humans to undergo the full transformation. As captain of the HMS Defiance, he would also be the first to command a ship equipped with the new Forbidden technology. They walked through the corridors of Luna Base toward the docking bay. Along the way, Ryan saw other modified humans. An engineer who was lifting equipment that should have required 3 people. A communications officer whose fingers moved across her keyboard so fast they looked like a blur. A medical technician whose eyes glowed the same blue as Ryan's own. The Zirathi don't know what's coming, Elena said as they reached the docking bay. Ryan stopped and stared. The HMS Defiance looked nothing like it had before. The ship's hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Strange energy patterns danced across its surface. And somehow, Ryan could feel the ship's presence in his mind, as if it were alive. What did you do to her? We installed the quantum drive system. The ship can now exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. It can phase through solid matter, appear in several places at once, and move through space in ways that normal physics says should be impossible. Ryan walked up to his ship and placed his hand on the hull. The metal felt warm under his touch, and he could swear he heard something like a heartbeat coming from inside. Is she alive? Not exactly. But the quantum systems create a kind of consciousness. The ship will respond to your thoughts as much as your commands. Try it. Ryan thought about the ship's engine starting up. Immediately, he heard the deep hum of power flowing through the vessel. He thought about the weapons charging, and felt the ship's systems come online. It was like controlling his own body. This is incredible. Wait until you see what she can do in battle. But first, we need to test everything. Admiral Carter wants you to take the Defiance to the Kepler system. Ryan frowned. That's where the Zirathi wiped out our colony. It's deep in enemy territory. Now, exactly. Intelligence reports say they have a major fleet stationed there. Over 200 ships. It's the perfect test for our new capabilities. 30 minutes later, Ryan was on the bridge of the Defiance with his crew. All of them had been modified like him. Their eyes glowed with the same blue light, and they moved with the same enhanced speed and precision. All systems ready, Captain, reported Lieutenant Amy Chun from the communications station. Her voice sounded different now, carrying harmonics. That hadn't been there before the modifications. Navigation is online, called out Ensign Steve Miller. Quantum drive is responding perfectly. I can feel the ship's awareness in my mind. Ryan settled into the captain's chair. The moment he sat down, his consciousness merged partially with the ship's systems. He could see through sensors placed all over the vessel. He could feel the power flowing through every circuit. He could sense the thoughts and emotions of his crew. Take us out, Steve. Let's see what this ship can do. The Defiance moved away from Luna Base, but not in any way that Ryan had ever experienced. Instead of accelerating gradually, the ship seemed to slip sideways through reality. One moment they were near the moon, and the next they were already halfway to the edge of the solar system. Quantum jump successful, Steve reported. We're now approaching the Kepler system. Enemy ships detected. Ryan's enhanced senses picked up the Zirathi fleet before the ship's sensors did. He could feel their hostile presence like a pressure in his mind. 237 ships, arranged in a defensive formation around the dead world that had once been humanity's colony. They're not going anywhere, Ryan said quietly. Today we show them what happens when you mess with human families. The Defiance dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Kepler system. Immediately, alarms began sounding on every Zirathi ship. They had never seen anything like the human vessel before. Sir, they're trying to scan us, Amy reported. But our quantum field is scrambling their sensors. They can't get a clear reading. Good, let's introduce ourselves properly. Steve, take us into the middle of their formation. Into the middle. Sir, that's suicide. Ryan smiled, and his crew could see that his teeth seemed sharper than they had been before. Not anymore, it isn't. The Defiance began to move toward the Zirathi fleet. But instead of flying in a straight line, the ship began to phase in and out of normal space. To the aliens, it looked like the human vessel was blinking in and out of existence, appearing in multiple places at the same time. The Zirathi opened fire with everything they had. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles flew toward the Defiance. But the weapons passed right through the ship without doing any damage. The quantum fields made the human vessel exist in several dimensions at once, so normal weapons couldn't touch it. "Their weapons can't hurt us," Amy reported with excitement in her voice. "We're completely immune to conventional attacks." "Then let's show them what our weapons can do. Target their command ship. Fire the quantum torpedoes." The Defiance fired. A single torpedo that looked like a tear in space itself. The weapon flew toward the largest Zirathi ship and struck it in the center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire vessel simply vanished from existence. As if it had never been there at all, the quantum torpedo had torn a hole in reality, sending the ship and its crew to a dimension where they could never return. "By the stars," whispered Steve, "we just erased them completely." The remaining Zirathi ships tried to retreat, but the Defiance was too fast. Using its quantum drive, the human ship appeared next to fleeing vessels and destroyed them one by one. Each shot from its weapons removed an enemy ship from existence entirely. Within 30 minutes, the entire Zirathi fleet was gone. 237 ships, destroyed by a single human vessel with a crew of only 20 people. Send a message to Admiral Carter. Tell him the test was successful. Tell him the Zirathi fleet in the Kepler system no longer exists. As Amy sent the message, Ryan felt something new happening to him. His consciousness was expanding beyond the ship, beyond normal human limits. He could sense other modified humans across space, all connected by the quantum fields that now flowed through their bodies. He was no longer just Ryan Brooks. He was part of something larger, something that was growing stronger with each passing day. The humans were not just getting better weapons and faster ships. They were becoming a new kind of being entirely. "Captain, we're receiving reports from across human space," Amy said. "Our modified fleets are winning everywhere. The Zirathi are retreating from 12 systems. They're calling it the human plague." Ryan nodded. The plague, that was a good name for it. Humanity was spreading across the galaxy like a disease that the aliens couldn't cure. But unlike a disease, this plague made everything stronger. "Set course for home, Steve. We need to report to Admiral Carter. And then we need to start planning our next move." As the Defiance jumped back toward Earth, Ryan thought about the colony that had once existed in the Kepler system. Millions of innocent people had died there because the Council had been too scared to help humanity. Now the Zirathi ships that had killed those people were gone, erased from existence entirely. It was just the beginning. The galaxy had abandoned humanity, thinking they were weak and helpless. Instead, they had created something that could not be stopped, could not be reasoned with, and could not be destroyed. The humans were no longer the species that had begged for help 3 months ago. They were becoming something new, something powerful, something that the rest of the galaxy would learn to fear. And Ryan Brooks smiled as he felt the change spreading through his mind and body, making him stronger with each passing moment. High Counselor Vextar's crystal body flickered with fear as he read the latest reports. In his long life of 3,000 years, he had never seen anything like what was happening across the galaxy. The humans had become something that defied everything the Council thought they knew about warfare and evolution. "How many Zirathi fleets have been destroyed?" he asked General Croaks, the Council's military advisor. The insect-like alien clicked his mandibles nervously. 47 complete fleets, High Counselor. Over 6,000 ships. All destroyed by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. Vextar turned to look at the great display screen that showed the galactic map. Red zones marked areas where the Zirathi Empire was under attack. There were red zones everywhere. What had once been the galaxy's most feared military power was being systematically destroyed by humans who had been helpless just 6 months ago. What about the reports of human abilities? Vexstar asked. Confirmed, sir. Human soldiers are displaying physical capabilities that should be impossible. They can survive in the vacuum of space without protection. They can communicate with each other across vast distances without using any technology. Some of them seem to be able to predict attacks before they happen. Ambassador Kella of the Altarians entered the chamber, her blue skin pale with worry. High Counselor, I bring urgent news from the border worlds. 3 of our colonies have declared independence and joined what they're calling the Human Coalition. Vexstar's crystal form grew dimmer. How is that possible? Those worlds have been loyal to the Council for thousands of years. The humans sent representatives. They offered to share their enhancement technology with any species that joined them. Our people saw what the humans had become and decided they wanted the same power. General Croaks buzzed with agitation. It gets worse, High Counselor. The humans aren't just recruiting our colonies. They're recruiting our people. Individual citizens are leaving Council worlds and traveling to human space for these modifications. That's impossible. No one would abandon their home species. The methane breathers have lost over 1 million citizens in the past month. The Silicon Lords report that entire cities are emptying as their people seek passage to human worlds. Even some of our own Altarian youth are trying to leave? Vexstar felt something he had never experienced before in his long life. True fear. Not fear of death or injury, but fear that everything he had known and protected was falling apart. Show me the footage from the Zerathi capital world. The display screen changed to show a recording from the heart of the Zerathi Empire. The planet's surface was covered with massive cities and military installations, or rather, it had been. Now half the planet looked like it had been carved away by some impossible force. A single human ship did this, General Croaks explained. It appeared in the planet's atmosphere, fired one weapon, and vanished. The weapon created some kind of dimensional tier that removed everything in a 1,000-mile radius. Mountains, cities, people, everything. Just gone. How many died? We estimate 50 million Zerathi. But that's not the strangest part. The humans broadcast a message after the attack. They said this was payment for the colony worlds the Zerathi had destroyed. They promised to remove 1 Zerathi world for every human world that had been lost. Vexstar processed this information. The humans were not just fighting a war anymore. They were conducting a systematic campaign of revenge, and they had the power to carry it out. High Counselor, came a new voice. Ambassador Thane from the tree. People entered the chamber, her wooden form creaking with age. I have been monitoring human communications. We need to discuss what they're planning next. What do you mean? They know about our deal with the Zerathi. They know we helped their enemies locate human colonies. They know we provided intelligence that led to the deaths of millions of their people. The chamber fell silent. This was the Council's darkest secret, known only to the highest levels of government. They had indeed helped the Zerathi, thinking it would lead to a quick end to the war and the removal of the human threat. How could they know? Vexstar asked. Their new abilities include enhanced mental capabilities. Some of them can read thoughts across interstellar distances. Others can access computer systems just by thinking about them. They've been watching us, listening to us, learning everything about us. General Croaks made a sound like grinding metal. What do they plan to do with this information? Thane activated a recording device. A human voice filled the chamber, speaking in clear, perfect galactic standard. But there was something wrong with the voice. It carried harmonics that seemed to reach directly into the listeners' minds. Citizens of the galaxy, the voice said. This is Admiral Ben Carter of the Human Coalition. We know that the Galactic Council helped our enemies destroy our worlds and kill our people. We know they made deals with the Zerathi to ensure human extinction in exchange for their own safety. We know they fear us not because we are evil, but because we represent everything they chose not to become. The recording continued. The Council had a choice 6 months ago. They could have helped us fight for justice and peace. Instead, they chose to help our murderers. Now we offer the galaxy a new choice. Join us and evolve beyond your limitations. Or remain with the Council and face the consequences of their decisions. The recording ended, leaving the chamber in silence. When was this broadcast? Vexstar asked. 3 hours ago. It went out on every communication frequency in the galaxy. Every world, every ship, every person heard it. Vexstar knew that everything had changed. The humans were no longer asking for help or trying to prove they deserved to live. They were offering the galaxy an ultimatum: join them or face them as enemies. How many species have responded? He asked. 17 have already announced they're leaving the Council to join the human coalition. More are expected to follow. The humans are offering immediate enhancement to any species that joins them voluntarily. And if they don't join voluntarily? Thanes. Wooden features somehow manage to look grim. The humans have not said. But based on what they did to the Zirithi capital, I think we can guess. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the council chamber. The lights dimmed and emergency systems activated. What's happening? Vexstar demanded. Sir, came a voice. Over the communication system. We have ships appearing in the system, human ships. They just materialized out of nowhere. On the display screen, they could see 12 human vessels surrounding the Council's homeworld. The ships looked nothing like the primitive craft humans had used just months before. These vessels seemed to bend light around them, and they moved in ways that suggested they weren't entirely present in normal space. They're hailing us, the communications officer reported. Put them through. The screen showed a human face, but like the voice they had heard earlier, something was different. The human's eyes glowed with blue light, and when he spoke, his words seemed to reach directly into their minds. This is Captain Danny White of the Human Coalition Fleet, High Counselor Vexstar. You and your council are hereby summoned to appear before Admiral Carter for negotiations. You have 1 hour to prepare. And if we refuse? Vexstar asked. The human smiled, showing teeth that seemed sharper than they should be. You won't refuse. You abandoned us when we needed help. You helped our enemies kill our children. You made deals to ensure our extinction. But we're not here for revenge, Counselor. We're here to offer you something your people have never had before. What? A chance to evolve. A chance to become something greater than what you are. The galaxy has been stagnant for millions of years because races like yours were too afraid to change, too afraid to grow. We're offering you the opportunity to transcend those limitations. The transmission ended, leaving the council members staring at the blank screen. Vexstar looked around the chamber at the frightened faces of the galaxy's leaders. They had spent thousands of years maintaining peace through careful, balanced, and cautious decisions. They had rejected change and evolution in favor of stability and predictability. Now, the humans were offering them exactly what they had always feared: the chance to become something more than what they were. The chance to break free from the limitations that had defined their existence for millions of years. What do we do? Asked General Croaks. Vexstar studied the human ships on the display. 6 months ago, these beings had come to them begging for help. Now they were offering to share power that could reshape the entire galaxy. The irony was not lost on him. We go to their meeting, he said finally, and we find out what humanity has become. High Counselor Vexstar had never felt so small in his 3,000 years of life. He stood in the meeting chamber aboard the human flagship, surrounded by beings who had once begged him for help. Now they looked at him with eyes that glowed. With power beyond anything he had ever imagined, Admiral Ben Carter sat across from the council delegation. But calling him human seemed wrong now. His consciousness filled the entire room like a presence that could see into everyone's thoughts. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. 6 months ago, you had a choice, Carter said, his enhanced mind already knowing what each council member was thinking. You could have helped us fight for justice and survival. Instead, you chose to help our enemies kill us. Vexstar tried to maintain his dignity despite the fear coursing through his crystal form. We believed we were preventing a larger war. You believed you were preventing us from becoming too powerful. And you were right to be afraid? Carter gestured to the other humans in the room. Look at what we've become. Captain Lucy Adams stood to Carter's right. She had been chosen as humanity's first galactic coordinator, the person who would help rebuild the galaxy's political structure. Her mind could process information from 1,000 worlds simultaneously, and her enhanced abilities let her understand the thoughts and motivations of every species present. The old system is over, Lucy said, her voice gentle but carrying absolute authority. For millions of years, the galaxy has been controlled by fear. Fear of change, fear of growth, fear of becoming something greater. That fear kept everyone weak and limited. General Croaks clicked his mandibles nervously. What do you propose to replace it? Carter stood up, and his presence seemed to expand to fill the entire chamber. A system based on evolution instead of stagnation. Every species will have the right to grow beyond their natural limitations. Every individual will have the right to become more than what they were born to be. Ambassador Kella spoke up, her blue skin pale with worry. And if we refuse? Then you'll be left behind, Lucy replied simply. We're not going to force anyone to evolve. But we're also not going to let anyone stop others from evolving. Vexstar looked around the room at his fellow council members. He could see the fear in their faces, but also something else. Something that looked almost like hope. For the first time in millions of years, someone was offering them a chance to break free from the limitations that had defined their existence. What happened to the Zirathi Empire? He asked. Gone, Carter replied. Completely. Every world, every ship, every trace of their existence has been removed from the galaxy. They chose genocide, so we chose to erase them entirely. But that was justice, not conquest. The room fell silent as the council members processed this information. An entire empire, one of the most powerful in galactic history, had been wiped out in less than 6 months by humans who had been helpless half a year ago. How many species have joined your coalition? Asked Ambassador Thane. 47 so far, Lucy answered. The methane breathers were first. They saw what we offered and immediately asked for full enhancement. The Silicon Lords followed soon after. Even some of your own people are asking to join us. Vexstar felt his crystal form flickering with emotion. Our people? Young Altarians. Mostly, they've seen what enhanced humans can do, and they want the same power for themselves. We've had to set up special centers just to handle all the requests for modification. Carter activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Blue zones marked areas under human coalition control. There were a lot of blue zones now, and they were growing larger every day. This is not conquest, Carter explained. This is evolution. We're offering every species the chance to transcend their biological limitations, to become faster, stronger, smarter, and more than they ever thought possible. What about those who choose not to evolve? Vexstar asked. They'll be protected and respected, Lucy said. But they won't be allowed to hold back those who do choose to grow. The old council system where the most fearful voices controlled everyone. Else is finished. Dr. Elena Santos entered the chamber. She looked almost exactly as she had 6 months ago, except for her eyes, which held depths that suggested vast intelligence. Hi, Counselor. Would you like to see what enhancement can offer your people? Vexstar hesitated. His entire life had been spent maintaining the careful balance that kept the galaxy stable. The idea of fundamental change terrified him. But looking at the humans around him, he realized that his fear might have been keeping his people from achieving something wonderful. Show me, he said quietly. Elena activated a medical scanner and pointed it at Vexstar. Your crystal matrix could be enhanced to process information at speeds that would make you the smartest being your species has ever produced. Your consciousness could expand to encompass multiple dimensions. You could live for millions of years instead of thousands. And the price? You would no longer be limited by what Altarians have always been. You would become something new, something greater. Vexstar thought about his long life. 3,000 years of careful decisions, cautious choices, and the constant fear of making the wrong move. 3,000 years of watching his people stay exactly the same while other species slowly grew and developed around them. What about our independence, our culture, our identity? Carter smiled, and for the first time, Vexstar saw genuine warmth in the enhanced human's expression. We don't want to erase who you are. We want to help you become who you could be. Enhanced. Altarians would still be Altarians. But they would be Altarians with capabilities your people have never dreamed of. Around the room, other council members were beginning to ask questions. General Croaks wanted to know if enhanced beings could still reproduce. Ambassador Thane asked about the spiritual implications of transcending natural limitations. Even the normally silent methane breather representative began inquiring about the modification process. Lucy addressed each question with patience and clarity. The humans had clearly thought through every aspect of what they were offering. This was not a sudden decision or a power grab. It was a carefully planned transformation of galactic civilization. There's something else you need to understand, Carter said as the questions died down. The children being born to enhanced humans are even more powerful than their parents. Each generation is stronger, smarter, and more capable than the last. In 50 years, humanity will be unrecognizable. In 100 years, we might transcend physical existence entirely. And you're offering this to everyone? Vexstar asked. To everyone who wants it. The galaxy has been the same for millions of years because everyone was afraid to change. We're offering an end to that stagnation. Vexstar made a decision that surprised even himself. I want to be enhanced. The room fell silent. As High Counselor, Vexstar's choice would influence billions of beings across the galaxy. Are you certain? Carter asked. Once you begin the process, there's no going back. I'm certain. My people have spent thousands of years being afraid of change. Maybe it's time we learned what we could become instead of hiding from our potential. Elena smiled and began preparing the enhancement equipment. The process will take about 6 hours. When it's complete, you'll be the first Altarian to transcend your species' natural limitations. As Vexstar prepared for his transformation, other council members began making their own decisions. General Croaks decided to volunteer as well, eager to see what his people could become. Ambassador Thane requested time to consult with her people. Before choosing, Lucy activated a galaxy-wide communication system. Citizens of all worlds, she announced. The old council has been dissolved by mutual agreement. In its place, we established the Galactic Federation of Enhanced Species. Every race, every world, and every individual will have the right to evolve beyond their limitations. The message continued. Enhancement centers are being established on 1,000 worlds. Anyone who chooses to transcend their natural boundaries will be welcomed. Those who choose to remain unchanged will be protected and respected. But no one will be allowed to prevent others from growing. 6 hours later, Vexstar opened his eyes and saw the universe in ways he had never imagined. His consciousness could reach across star systems. His understanding of physics and mathematics had expanded beyond anything he had thought possible. And for the first time in his long life, he felt truly alive. How do you feel? Carter asked. I feel like I've been sleeping for 3,000 years and finally woken up. Vexstar replied, his voice now carrying the same harmonics as the enhanced humans dot around the galaxy. The transformation accelerated. Species that had been stagnant for millions of years began to evolve at incredible speeds. Children born with abilities that previous generations would have called godlike began exploring dimensions beyond normal space and time. The Council had abandoned humanity, thinking they were saving the galaxy from chaos. Instead, they had forced humanity to become exactly what the galaxy needed, a species willing to break through the barriers that had held everyone back for so long. The age of limitation was over, the age of transcendence had begun, and at its heart stood the species that had refused to accept extinction, offering the galaxy a choice between evolution and irrelevance.